Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another session of Domestic Violence Connection Circles supporting victims through the COVID-19 pandemic. As we have been seeing in the news and articles over and over that domestic violence is on the rise. Last week, I spent a little bit of time unpacking the 5 reasons why domestic violence is rising during COVID. And that is due to isolation, due to lack of financial resources, shelters being over capacity, and just lack of awareness and knowledge overall. And it seems to be a big problem that's just perpetuating. And I've been speaking to a lot of my friends who work in the violence against women sector, who are running shelters, who are working with United Way and their violence against women initiatives. And I keep hearing the same messages over and over again. So on one hand, abuse is rising because isolation is an abuser's best friend, and right now it's being handed to them on a silver platter. And on the other hand, the number of calls that shelters and helplines are getting is actually reducing because women do not now have time on their own, and when they're able to make a call, so they can't just hide and make a call. They may be in danger there, and no one can reach to them because of social isolation, and they can't exactly go and stay at a friend or family's place. They can't just go out anywhere on their own. And just a few days ago, I had a conversation on Twitter with somebody, and she was looking for a shelter, and she just couldn't find any because she's like, every shelter I'm calling, they're just full and they don't have space. So some creative solutions are starting to come up where one of my friends, and she runs a shelter, and she said she's partnering with local hotels to use some rooms because hotels are right now not being used. So using rooms there to put up women when they don't have capacity in the shelter itself. And that just also speaks to me on so many levels, because right now is the time when community needs to step in, when all of us need to step in. We need to be there. We need to be able to pick up the phone and call and have conversations with these women. We need to be able to say, hey, you're not alone, I'm here for you. We need to be able to recognize that they're being abused and have those conversations with them, know what questions we need to ask, and how to just support them through that process. Because leaving is never linear. Leaving is a process, and every step you take, it brings you a little bit closer. So the more you're aware of what you need to do for yourself, and the more you are aware of how you can support people in your life who are going through this, the better off we'll all be for that, because ultimately knowledge is power. And the aim for these sessions is to impart that knowledge and support women and build that sense of community. And hopefully we can all be there for each other through this. Because no woman should ever be in an abusive situation for any reason, and especially if she feels that she's all alone and there's no one to help her and no one can understand her. So that is the purpose of these sessions. Today's particular session is about emotional and psychological violence. And that is a type of abuse that's very hard to recognize. And I often say, abuse is not about a slap or a kick. Ultimately, abuse is about control, and abuse is about power. So it's about the abuser's need to control somebody and feel powerful about themselves. So it doesn't ever start with a slap or a kick. It actually starts with those belittling comments, with those little put downs, with those little things that make you feel bad about yourself, the verbal digs, the jokes at your expense, the controlling the finances and telling you that you're not good enough or you're worthless or you won't be able to succeed, or downplaying your ambitions and goals. And that's how it starts. And over time, it chips away at a victim's self-confidence, to a point where when that first slap or kick comes, the victim thinks that's their fault too, because they've been hearing it for a long time. And that is exactly what happened in my marriage. The first time my ex-husband hit me was many, many years into the marriage. For the first number of years, several years, it was all the verbal, the name calling, you're worthless, you're useless, you're good for nothing. And when I would ask him why he says that, the answer would be because you deserve it. And when you hear that on a daily basis, you start believing that. And then when that first slap came, I thought that was my fault too, and I did deserve it. And I didn't have the confidence and the wherewithal to be able to walk away. And then you add on to that the fact that a lot of women are lacking financial resources. Sometimes family and friends are against them and they don't believe them because the abuser appears so loving on the outside. So how could he possibly do this to you? And you just feel invalidated from all fronts, or sometimes you don't have the basic knowledge of what your rights are as a human being, as a woman, as a Canadian. And all that perpetuates and just holds you trapped. So yes, the door might be open and you can walk out, but then where do you go? Who do you turn to? What are your rights? Oh, what does life look like out of this? Maybe he's the best I can get. Maybe I should just stay and make it work like everybody's telling me to. Or maybe it's not abuse because he's not hitting me. And one of the most powerful conversations I've had about emotional abuse was with one of the board members of Assaulted Women's Helpline, and I work closely with them, and I share resources with them, etc. And there's certainly a helpline that I availed a lot during my marriage. I used to call them quite a lot, especially towards the end when I was planning on leaving. And the board member said to me, you know, Samra, the highest number of calls that we get are from women who ask, he's not hitting me. Is this abuse? I don't understand. It's not like he's breaking my bones or something. I don't know if it's abuse or not. So that's what verbal, emotional, and physical abuse is like. It's very insidious and it creeps up on you, and you don't even know that you're being abused because the marks and the scars are not visible. They're on your soul. But that doesn't mean they're any less damaging. In fact, if anything, they're more damaging. And I certainly know that in my marriage, I don't even remember the times that he hit me. Those are not the things that stay with me. Those are not the things I struggle with. The things I still struggle with, the things that still traumatize me are those words on an everyday basis that chipped away at my self-confidence. And it's taken me a long time, and I'm still on that journey to build it back up and get rid of that noise from my head. So you struggle with a lot of imposter syndrome, confidence issues, you're walking on eggshells, you're living in fear, and your confidence is just chipped away. And at the end of the day, there's actually a lot of research and studies to prove that emotional abuse, one of the results is PTSD, and it's not a joke. So we shouldn't take it lightly. And in fact, the more we know about these things, the more we know about these signs, the easier and more powerful it will be for us to be able to recognize and walk away that, okay, this isn't healthy. Because oftentimes those early things are masked in a lot of love and a lot of romance. And you feel like, oh, wow, this person's so amazing to me. How could he possibly be abusive? It's just one little comment. It's just one little thing. It's just a joke. He didn't mean it that way. And you make excuses, and your tolerance level just keeps raising until like, you're tolerating things that you never would have tolerated in the beginning. I often describe this using a frog analogy. If you put the frog in hot water, the frog will jump out and run away. It has the ability to do that. But if you put the frog in cold water and turn the heat up ever so slightly, the frog will eventually cook to death without even realizing, because the frog's body temperature will keep adjusting to the rising temperature of the water. And that's pretty much how that progression and the insidious cycle of abuse works. So with that, I'm going to go into a short presentation just to unpack some of these early signs and what are the questions you ask yourself if you're suspecting that you're in an emotionally abusive relationship. And if you're suspecting that somebody you love is, then how do you have that conversation? And what are the ways that you can do what are some things you can do to support someone who you think is in an emotionally abusive relationship? So I'm just going to share my screen here, and oops. Just bear with me, guys. I don't know what happened and why did I close my window? I have no idea. Okay, there we are. Okay. Okay. Can everybody see that? Can someone just let me know that they can see that? Okay, perfect. And I'm just going to go all the way to the top. All right. So this session is about, this session is one of the series of the Domestic Violence Connection Circles supporting victims during COVID-19. So this particular session for today is about recognizing emotional and psychological abuse. Like I said, it is the main, whoops, what did we do? All right, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. So this session is about domestic violence connection circles supporting victims during COVID-19. And this particular session is about recognizing emotional and psychological abuse. What are some signs? What does it look like? And how do you recognize it with yourself? And how do you support loved ones if you suspect that they're going through it? So ultimately, domestic violence is about power and control. And power and control can be exerted in many forms. It doesn't have to be necessarily physical. And there's a common myth that domestic violence is physical violence. Even if you Google domestic violence and you look at the Google images that pop up, it's all about bruised and battered faces and broken bones and you know, it looks like it's all physical. And that's why a lot of women will ask, you know, he's not hitting me, so maybe it's not abuse. Maybe I'm just making it up in my head. Maybe I'm just overthinking this. And you keep tolerating and you keep putting up with little comments and little jokes and things here and there, because other than that, it all looks great. And abusers are very good at putting that perfect picture out there. In fact, in my marriage, when I finally left and I told people he was abusive, no one believed me because he was so great at putting out this best husband image. And I was ashamed of letting everybody know that I was being abused, so I played along with it. So when I finally came out with the truth, it was like everybody was shocked. Like, what do you mean? He loves you so much. He's all over you. Like, he's always like so attentive to you, and he's such a wonderful husband. My own uncle, my chacha, who's my father's younger brother, said to me that summarized the luckiest girl in this entire family, that she's got such a loving husband. And this was the day after he hit me. So abusers are very good at portraying that image. So, and ultimately abuse is about power and control. So power and control can be exerted in many forms. It doesn't have to be physical. It can be exerted through psychological manipulation and emotional control and making you feel bad about yourself, guilting you, shaming you, which is why ultimately it makes it easier for the abuser to control someone whose confidence is chipped away. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So initially, first of all, I want to talk about the cycle of abuse and what that looks like. So, you know, it's easy for people to say that, oh, why don't you leave if it was so abusive? It was so horrible. Why didn't you just leave? But abuse is not about, like, no relationship is completely horrible. There are a lot of really good moments, and there's a cycle that keeps perpetuating it. And sometimes that cycle is prolonged over months, and sometimes it's actually like very short. It will happen in quick days or even multiple times a day. So the first step would be the tensions start to build. So everything is fine, but then you suddenly see that, you know, there's something off with his mood. Like, you know, he slams a door, or he puts something on the table really, really hard, or, you know, he makes a comment that makes you, you know, gets your like nerves on edge, that, oh my God, he's getting angry. Like, you know, you feel that sense of impending doom. And that's when the tensions are increasing. There's a breakdown of communication. The victim is becoming fearful, and she often feels like, oh, I better calm him down. I better like smooth his feathers. And in my case, the biggest sign for me when tensions would build was the door slamming. So whenever he was upset, he would slam a door. And every time I would hear a door slam somewhere in the house, maybe the bathroom or bedroom, while I was in the kitchen cooking, I'd be like, oh God, no, it's coming again. Like I just instinctively know that something's going to happen. And I would instantly start to be on edge and be fearful and try to do everything in my power to please him so that it wouldn't get to the next stage. But no matter what you do, it always gets to the next stage, because that's what abusers do. They start, it's all about them. It has nothing to do with you. So they are the ones who are feeling agitated. They feel like they're losing control. Maybe they're pissed off at something that happened at work. Maybe they're upset with a friend, or they're feeling frustrated for some reason. And now they're feeling the need to exert that frustration on somebody else. And the easiest person to do that to is obviously the victim, because they're controlling them. The second stage is that incident that happens. So as the tensions build over days or weeks, then eventually it is like a pressure cooker, you know, and it builds up, builds up, builds up, and then it bursts. So so that's the incident. It could be verbal, it could be emotional, it could be physical. So that's anger, blaming, fighting, arguing, criticizing, threats, intimidation, punching, slapping. So in our case, because today we're talking about emotional and psychological abuse, then it is definitely, you know, the anger, the blaming, the verbal, you're not good enough, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, you're a good for nothing, you're worthless, you're useless. And like I said, in the early years of my marriage, that was the main thing that happened. And I would ask, why are you saying this? Because you deserve it. And it would just be this almost like a verbal diarrhea of insults that would come my way, and I would start internalizing them over time. And you know, I would be told that if I wasn't okay with it, it was my fault because I was the one who was not good enough. I'm the one who made him angry. So it's that incident that happens which leaves you feeling broken down. Leaves you feeling really destitute and really just, you know, what's going on here? I don't know what I've done. And you're left crying and you're left completely broken. And then comes the third step, which is the reconciliation. And that's when the abuser will apologize. They will make excuses. They will blame it on circumstances. Oh, it's because I'm stressed out at work, or it's because I had a fight with my parents, or it's because, you know, my friend didn't drop that off on time, or whatever it is. They will always find some reason, some excuse to justify their behavior. And they will apologize, they will cry, and they will say it's not as bad as you think it is, and the victim will start believing it because you're already, as a victim, you're broken down, and you're looking for some kind of soothing and some kind of, you know, a validation, and the abuser will give you that, and you latch onto it naturally. It's very natural. It's very human. And then after that, there's a calm period when you think, oh wow, everything is forgotten, we're happily ever after, things will be great, it's the honeymoon phase, and you know, now he's never going to abuse me again, and things are wonderful. And then but lo and behold, as it is always with the cycle of abuse, eventually over time the tensions will start building again. And like I said, sometimes the cycle lasts months, years, and sometimes it's very quick. Usually over time it becomes quicker and it becomes more intense. So I'll share a quick story to just demonstrate how that cycle works. So my ex-husband had lost his job, and he was really upset about just lack of money, lack of resources, and he was constantly really just on edge. And I knew that he's upset. So, you know, he would come home, he would be grumpy, he would be slamming doors, he would be like, you know, just throwing things here and there, and you know, just like he would be watching TV, and then instead of putting the remote on the table, he'd just throw it down or something. So I knew that he's okay. There's something going on in there, like, you know, it's brewing, and I knew it. And then one time, we were in the kitchen. I was serving him food, and he started to go on about money, and I was afraid about that I needed diapers for my young daughter, and she was 1.5 years old, and I was really afraid to ask him because I knew that there's tension there, and if I didn't want to poke the beehive, you know, because like you're like, okay, this is dangerous, but I didn't have a choice because I needed diapers. So I very, you know, hesitantly, and I was scared, but I still had to do this, and I asked him if we could get diapers, and that was like that little pin that pops the balloon, and it just bursts, and he started to you know, physically, like not physically, but verbally and emotionally just humiliate me and tell me that I'm not a good enough mom. How can you go through diapers so fast? And why don't you just potty train her? What kind of a mother are you? You're not the first woman in this world to be a mom. Like, what is wrong with you? And just completely ripping into my self-esteem. And we were sitting at the dining table, and I got up, and I didn't want to eat anymore. And he grabbed my wrist, and he's like, "Where are you going?" And he called me a really bad word and a very bad name. And I said, I just want to leave. I'm not hungry anymore. And he's like, "Sit back down." And I said, "I'm not hungry anymore." And he picked up his glass of ice water and he flung it at me. And I got drenched in head to toe in ice water. and he let my wrist go. And as I was going away, I slipped because of the wet tiled floor, and I hurt my back, and I somehow quickly got up. And as I was running to the bathroom, I grabbed the cordless phone. At that time, I didn't have a cell phone. This was early, like 2000, so 2003, I think, or 2002 or 2003. So I grabbed the cordless phone in the house and ran into the bathroom, and I closed the bathroom door, locked it, and the phone was in my hand. And I dialed 911, and then my hand was on the dial button, but I couldn't press it because the thoughts in my head was, now what? Where am I going to go? Are they going to take my kid away? I don't have family here. I don't have money. I don't even have a citizenship. Will I be deported because he sponsored me? And all these thoughts. And will the police come? What will it look like? Will they take my kid away from me? And as I was sitting there in the bathroom with my phone in my hand trembling, right away he was at the door and just profusely apologizing. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're hurt. Please come back. Please open the door. Let me talk to you. And in the most loving, calming voice, I'm really, really sorry. All apologizing, giving, I was just stressed out about money. You know how it is. I've lost my job. I didn't mean to do this. I just, it's just the stress of it getting to me. And I'm so sorry that it came out on you. That's not what let's talk about it. Let me just hug you. And it was this over dramatic apology. And eventually I didn't call the police. I opened the door and just went into my room. And then after that, for several days, probably weeks, things were great. The next day I had flowers. The next day, the day after that, he brought me my favorite takeout food. And then, we went out for a family night, and he took me out to dinner, and, he's being super nice and super caring. Do you need anything? And so, it's like putting the Band-Aid on the damage. And then over time, a few weeks later, when things are back to normal, and I'm thinking, oh wow, he's changed. This will not happen again, and we're perfect little family again. And then the tension starts building again, and this time it's something else, if not the money. So that's pretty much how the cycle of abuse works. And I wanted to share that example so that it all puts it into perspective for everybody. This is a really powerful diagram, and I mentor a lot of women who are survivors of domestic abuse or in it. And this is something that I'm like, print this out and stick it on your wall or something, because that's what I did. I used to have it on my phone. I still do whenever, I'm dealing with any kind of memories or trauma that comes back. This is just such a powerful tool to recognize what abuse looks like and how it is really, how it works. It's the power wheel, so it's power and control, like I said, and it could be used it could be exerted in so many ways. So intimidation, emotional abuse, isolation, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children. So like I said, aren't you a good enough mother? Why didn't you potty train her? So using children, you're going to lose your kids if you leave because you're not a citizen and you don't have a job or an education. That's a big one. Economic abuse. So he controlled all the purse strings. I didn't have any money on me. And again, if you don't have money, how are you going to make it in the world, right? So that's a really big one as well. Using male privilege. That's certainly really apparent in some cultures more than others. Definitely in the culture that I came from, the husband is like more of a godlike figure, and you've got to revolve around him. So your job as a woman is to serve him and to make him happy. And if you're not doing that, then you're not good enough. Then what's the point of you being a woman? You're not fulfilling your actual womanly purpose. And certainly religion and culture is used quite a lot to exert that male privilege. And that is in every religion and culture, not just mine, but it's across the board. I'm just using my example because that's what I know. Using coercion and threats. So if you leave me, I'll kill myself, or I'll kill you and I'll kill myself, or I won't be able to live without you, or threatening to even leave her, like, I'll just throw you out of the street. We'll see how you survive without me. Using intimidation, putting her down, emotional abuse, smashing things and throwing things. Like I said, you know, if somebody, my ex-husband slammed doors or threw things in front of me, I would be like, it will automatically make you afraid, right? If somebody punches a wall in front of you or throws something in front of you, or like, oh my God, he's like, there's something wrong here. I better be on my best behavior. Otherwise, what if he throws something at me, or worse yet, throws me? So it is intimidating behavior. And isolation is a big one. Where are you going? What are you wearing? Who are you seeing? Who are your friends? And it isn't always like in a, you know, like restrictive way. Sometimes it is, like I said, it's masked in a lot of love and romance. So it could even be, you know, baby, I really don't want you to go over there and see your friends. Don't you love me? Don't you want to spend all your time with me? I miss you. I love you. You see, I would never choose my friends over you. So here, you know, is an abuser who's playing these mind games and guilting and shaming you into spending all their time with them because they want to isolate you from your friends and family, because those friends and family might pick up on what they're doing. And then minimizing, denying, and blaming. So that's a big one. Invalidating your feelings. It was just a joke. What is wrong with you? I didn't mean it that way. It was just a little comment. Why are you so on edge all the time? And you know, it's not that bad. I'm not like you. Do you know what demeaning even looks like? You're saying my words were demeaning. Like, people demean each other like so much. What I said was just a simple joke. Why can't you take a joke? So all these things are part and parcel of that psychological manipulation that chips away at your self-esteem. And eventually, when that physical violence comes, you're already thinking that, you know, like you're already confused and walking on eggshells, and you don't have the power to be able to defend yourself. This is a really powerful quote. Emotional abuse is just as damaging as physical abuse. The only difference between the two is that with physical abuse, you're wearing it on the outside for the world to see, and the other is felt on the inside. Others cannot see the bruises on your heart. And I will just add to that, the bruises on your soul. And it, like I said, it is just as, and sometimes even more damaging. So we should absolutely not take it lightly, because a lot of times the physical abuse may never happen. It may never come. It could all just be emotional. And that is enough to leave somebody completely like a hollow shell of themselves. The next slide I have is about some examples, like how I described in the power wheel. Like, what are some ways that somebody can emotionally abuse you and manipulate you? So humiliating you is one, you know, what is wrong with you, or you're worthless, or you're useless, or saying really bad words, or calling you bad names and things like that. Criticizing and making you feel bad about yourself. And these are like little things, you know, how you're cooking, you know, like, I don't even know what you do with it. Like, or what is wrong with your dressing style? Like, why do you wear these 4-inch heels and you look taller than everybody else? Or, you know, you're wearing this red dress, it makes you look like a fire truck. Like, things that are you. And, you know, this actually happened to me in a recent relationship that I was in, when I was being criticized for wearing, for my clothing choices and my heels and stuff. And I was like, I started to think along those lines that, you know, so like, maybe I just don't know how to dress. Like, so you start feeling bad about yourself, and then you catch yourself, no, this isn't me. This is this person trying to play mind games with me. Controlling your behavior and whereabouts. And like I said, stalking and all of that can be in a very loving way. You know, I'm just doing this because I miss you. I worry about you. Why don't you understand, baby? Like, I'm worried when you're going out and I don't know where you are. You're my girlfriend. Like, I want to be able to know where you are. You're my wife. Like, don't I have the right to know where you are? So it's again masked in all this worry and care and love, and they're controlling your behavior and your whereabouts by guilting and shaming you. Belittling your goals and accomplishments. I hear this all the time, especially with women friends of mine who are accomplished and who are ambitious. Like, you know, they're being told that my husband just feels like I'm more successful than him, and it makes him feel bad about myself. Or I recently heard from a friend, you know, her boyfriend said, I don't feel like a man with you. And so these are all things that and they're going to belittle, like, why would you want to go to Harvard? Like, haven't you done enough? Like, why don't you just stay? Why are you taking on one more board position? Like, you should slow down, and you should just like focus on us. And or, you know, you'll never be able to get into Harvard, or you're never going to be able to start this business. What makes you think you're going to be successful? Like, there's millions of businesses out there that fail every day. What makes you think you're going to be any different? So here's someone who's, again, chipping you away. It has nothing to do with you or your ability. They know that you will be successful. They know that you will kick ass. And that is exactly why they're trying to belittle you, is because that will just make them feel bad about themselves because of their own insecurities. And it has nothing to do with you. But the way they mask it is that it's all about you, and they're the loving, caring soul in your life who just does feel bad about it. Unhealthy jealousy and possessiveness, that's a big one as well. So again, I don't want like you hanging out with your guy friends. You know, if you wear this dress, you know, you're looking so great. I don't want others looking at you. I'm not comfortable with you talking to this and this friend. Or so it's this unhealthy jealousy because they're afraid. Deep down, an insecure person is afraid that you're going to leave them, and they will do everything in their power to keep you in their little cage. So so they're jealous of everything. And jealousy doesn't just come from the fact of, you know, from the place of like other men or other people. Jealousy can be even about other things that make you happy. So let's say if you really love travel, and you know, once in a while you want to go with your friends, with your girlfriends to a trip somewhere, or take a solo trip somewhere, that they'll be jealous of even that. So it's not that that you're going with someone else. It's like, how is she happy with something that has nothing to do with me? So I'm jealous of that. And they will be even jealous of you accomplishing your goals and dreams. So that's a big one. Isolating you from your friends and family, I talked about that already, and it's the biggest tool that abusers have at their disposal. The more isolated you are, the more in their clutches you are, the easier it is for them to control you. Guilt and shame is the biggest tools, I would say, that abusers use to control their victims, because the more they can make you feel guilty about something, the easier it is that they will get you to do what they want. So, baby, I really love you. Why are you going out with your friends right now? I just wanted to spend time with you. Don't you like that? Like, I'm not going out anywhere. And again, you start feeling guilty that, oh my gosh, like this person's amazing. Maybe I shouldn't go. So you will say no to your friends, and you will stay. So again, they got you to do what they wanted, and they used guilt as a way. And shame is another one. Like, why did you do that? Like that's so bad. Like, you're so silly. And you're feeling bad about yourself. So the more you feel bad about yourself, the more your defense mechanism down, the more your confidence is down, the easier it is for somebody to control you. Blaming you for their problems, that's also huge. Like, you're the one who makes me feel this way. You're the one who makes me angry. My ex-husband used to do that all the time. You're the one who makes me feel, you're the one who left, who doesn't take care of my things properly, or you're the one who didn't wake up on time and make me food on time. And so whatever their issues are, you're the culprit. And they will blame you and shame you and guilt you until you start believing it, that, yeah, it's all me. They're perfect. It's all me. And the last one is just an illustration of how all that works, the invalidation of your feelings. So if you do point out that I wasn't happy with what you said about my dress that day, or I wasn't happy with what you said about my friends, or then it's like, oh, come on, you're so sensitive. It was just a joke. Don't be so silly. You know how much I love you. Like, I bought you flowers that day. I did this, I did that. I introduced you to all my friends and family. I brag about you everywhere. And you're telling me that I belittle your goals? Like, how could you even suspect me of that? So now you start thinking, oh my God, yeah, he's right. He did compliment me that day. So maybe I'm just overthinking it. Everybody says crap once in a while. It's okay, right? So you start thinking that maybe I'm the one who's sensitive. I'm the bad guy, and I should just take this joke. And that's how, over time, again, if these things happen just one time, maybe they're not big deal, but in totality and in conjunction with each other, and over time, when it happens again and again, it chips away at who you are, and you start becoming a shell of who you are. And again, that's exactly what they want, because that makes it easier for them to control you. Okay. So just another few sentences. You should feel so lucky to have me. Any woman would love their boyfriend to be all over them. And, you know, I don't know what's wrong with you. You should feel so lucky that I'm so attentive to you. Because the more, and again, the attentiveness is not really being attentive to your needs. It's because they want to latch on to you because they're afraid that they don't want to, they don't want to lose that control. Or don't be so sensitive. That wasn't what I meant. Or it's really not that bad. Like, stop whining. Like, you have everything going for you. What are you whining about? Or, you know, come on, like I've been making these jokes all my life. All my ex-girlfriends, it never bothered anybody else. Like I don't even have a right to say whether I like your dress or not. Like, it doesn't bother anyone else. Why are you so upset? What is wrong with you? Or, you know, life isn't fair. Get over it. You know, if you're having a problem at work, let's say, and you want to talk to your partner about it and get some support, then, you know, they just completely invalidate your feelings. Well, come on, like, people kill to have your job. Like, life isn't fair. Boo hoo. Like, first world problems. So that's a lot of the invalidation that comes with emotional abuse as well. So let's get to like some signs that you may be in an emotionally abusive relationship. So we already talked about what it looks like. We talked about all the different elements of it, right? So now these are some signs that you are feeling. That how do you detect it? Because again, like you are able to, you know, yeah, it's happened once and happened, but you're the biggest metric of what's happening with you is your own feelings. And I would highly encourage, if you suspect this is you, start journaling your feelings. I do that all the time. And even now when I see someone or I'm dating someone, I'm always journaling because I want to be hyper vigilant and think about what your body and what your soul is telling you. So if your feelings are not being invalidated, you're constantly feeling like, he doesn't understand me. He doesn't get me. Like, I don't know what this is. Why am I feeling this way? But I feel like I can't really tell him about my feelings. That's a big sign. And if he's mistrustful for no reason, like, I'm not giving him any reason to be suspicious, but he's always suspicious of my friends. And, you know, I just went and hung out with one of my college friends for drinks once, and he's like accusing me of cheating on him. Like, I don't understand. Like, why is he so afraid? Why doesn't he trust me? So again, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them because they're insecure. And you feel unable to bring your problem. So let's say you had a problem at work, or you had a fight with your friend or something, things that you normally want to talk to a partner about, right? Because you want to feel validated, you want to be able to discuss these things with them, but you're afraid to bring them up because you feel like they won't understand, or they won't care, or they'll say something that will make you even feel worse. So you keep your problems to yourself. And it's even worse if the problems are between both of you. If, let's say, you want to tell them that what they said or what they did or how they're behaving is not good to you and you don't like it, you're even more afraid to bring that up because they're just gonna like be that little poking the beehive kind of situation. So you're afraid to bring up any kind of problems and address problems in the relationship. You feel stuck or confused most of the time. So you're like, am I thinking this right? Maybe I'm just overthinking it. Maybe it's my trauma talking. Maybe it's my, you know, it's my own biases. So you're second guessing yourself, right? Whereas when you're feeling confident and sure of yourself, you'd never second, like, yeah, that guy's, you know, I don't want to talk to this person. I don't want to, you know, work with that person. And you're able to make those decisions because you trust yourself. But now you're feeling stuck and you're feeling confused and you don't know how to get out of it and you can't quite put your finger on it. You're like, I don't know what it is, but I just can't quite understand what it is. So that feeling of being confused all the time, that's a really big sign as well. And the biggest thing is you're walking on eggshells. You're living in fear. You're constantly thinking, I hope I don't piss him off. I hope I don't make him angry. I hope I don't do this. Yeah, this made him happy last week. Maybe this will make him happy again. I should do this. And you're always trying to placate the abuser. That's kind of like what I talked about, that tension building phase. You feel like you're constantly in that tension building phase. And you're constantly like afraid of what to say and what not to say, and whether to talk about this friend or talk about that thing that happened in your life. So that's a big sign as well. I'm going to talk about some questions that you can then ask yourself if you feel like you are in that situation. What are some questions you can ask yourself? Does your partner get upset when you don't comply? Like, if yes, like, write these down, journal them. Does he get upset when you don't comply? Do you drop everything for them? Like if they want something, you drop everything that's going on in your life. Otherwise, you're afraid you'll get mistreated. And mistreated is, again, it's not just physically, it's emotionally, or they'll be upset, or they'll sulk, or they'll not be happy with you, and they'll withdraw affection, or they will withdraw sex or something like that. Are you losing yourself in accommodating them, that you're working so hard in taking care of their feelings that are your feelings lost in that process? Does your partner check up on your schedule and whereabouts all the time? Maybe he's going on WhatsApp and checking when you were last online, and then you're going on Instagram and checking when you're last online, and then he's calling you and you're not replying right away, and then he's like, hey, I called you, I texted you, we're online on WhatsApp, but you didn't respond to me. What's up with that? Like, so you feel like you're constantly being watched, and they have access to your schedule and all of those things. So you feel like you're, okay, this person's like not giving me any space. So does that happen? Do they tell you that you're lucky to have them and wouldn't survive without them? That's a great way to chip away at someone's self-esteem, right? To tell them, hey, you would never make it without me. You're lucky to have me in your life. Like, I don't even know how you were surviving without me until now. So you feel like, oh, maybe, and this person loves me so much, and he's so wonderful to me. So maybe they're right. Like, I don't know how I was surviving without this love. Whereas you've been a confident woman all your life, but like I said, it's masked in so much love and romance that you can't possibly think that this person would be doing this to you. So you start to internalize that over time. Are you afraid to assert yourself and set boundaries? Are you afraid to say that, hey, you know what, I need it 2 nights a week to myself, or I don't think I want to meet your parents right now, or I don't think I want to hang out with your friends this weekend. I just need some self-care time, or whatever boundaries are you afraid to bring that up because you think that, yes, this will upset them, instead of a normal, non-abusive person who would say, you know what, hey, whatever you need, I'm here for you, right? I respect that. Yeah, I'll miss you, but I'm here to support you in whatever you need. But no, this abusive person will start to get upset about that because they will see that as a threat to them and their level of control. Do you find yourself making excuses for them in front of friends and family? So maybe you're telling your friends, you know what, no, he's great, he's not that bad, he's really wonderful, because your friends and family might be picking up on it. They may be saying, hey, you're not yourself these days, what's going on? And you're like, no, it's nothing. Or that comment that your boyfriend made that day, it really didn't sit well with us. He really shouldn't be saying that about you. You're so smart. Like, how can he tell you that you cannot make it into that university or start that business? They're like, no, he doesn't mean it like that, and you're making excuses for them. But he just jokes around. This is just his way of joking. So your friends and family are telling you something and they're picking up on the red flags, but you're making excuses for them. Or maybe you're saying, oh, my partner didn't come with me here because he's just he's sick, whereas he's not sick. He's just upset that, he doesn't want to hang out with your friends because he wants to hang out with his friends. Do your loved ones tell you that you're not being yourself? So your loved ones, your friends and family are a great barometer to figure out what's going on. Does your partner draw you into feeling sorry for them, even though they're the ones that mistreated you? So again, that's the guilt and shame. It wasn't me, it was just my circumstances, and I didn't mean it that way. You know how much I really care about you. And now you start to feel sorry. Oh yeah, he's it's true. Like, he just lost his job. Of course he's in a bad place right now. It's okay. I should be more compassionate. I should be more kind. And they tell you that. And they say, oh, you're kind to everyone else, why aren't you being kind to me? So again, they draw you into feeling sorry for them, and even though they're the ones who are mistreating you. Do you constantly feel bad about yourself? That's a big question that I always say to women to ask yourself. If you're feeling bad about yourself with someone, and even if you can't understand why, and you're trying to rationalize it, that what is it? Like, what is that thing that I want to put up my finger on it, but I can't understand it? But if you're feeling bad about yourself, listen to your body. Your body's telling you something. And do you feel your confidence chipping away? So lastly, I want to just say, if it's somebody else who you think, maybe you're not going through this, but someone in your family or your friends or your workplace you suspect is in an emotionally abusive relationship, what are the ways you need to support them, and what are the things you can do? So the do's are listen and believe. If somebody's telling you, listen, hold space for them. Empathy is about holding space. It's not about solving someone's problems. And even that little act of listening from a place of no judgment can be absolutely life-changing. And believe them, because no one has probably believed them up until now, right? Like all these women calling and saying, hey, I don't know if I'm being abused. They were calling Assaulted Women's Helpline. I don't know if I'm being abused, but this is what happens. And if you hear someone, you know what, it's not your fault, I believe you, this is abusive, that is validation, and validation is everything. So listen and believe, share and be honest about your concerns. So if you are seeing something off with a friend of yours, then be honest. Hey, you know what, I'm really concerned about you. I don't think this person's right for you. And like I said, recently I was in a very short 2-month relationship, and this person was doing some of these things. And two of my best friends actually were like, Samra, there's something off with this guy. Like, we're concerned about you. And at that point, that was like, you know what, if they're seeing it, that means I'm right. And that gut feeling that I'm feeling that this isn't right, it's true. So I was able to extricate myself really, really quickly. So be honest and share your concerns. Research and provide resources. So sometimes what I do with the women that I mentor is actually I sit with them and research with them. So they feel so much better that, okay, this is somebody who's holding our hand through this process. We're not alone. So sometimes you can't solve someone's problems, but research with them, provide them resources, point them towards the material. Maybe that power wheel diagram that I showed you, show it to them. My aha moment in my marriage when I was being abused came 10 years into my marriage. I was a student at University of Toronto. And one day I was just walking on campus, feeling confused, like I always did, like what's going on? Everybody at school treats me respectfully, and then I go home and I'm being treated like dirt. What's happening? And walking on campus, and I see this sign which had a bunch of questions on it. Do you feel intimidated? Like you've lost your voice, like you can't go on, like you're always living in fear, you're walking on eggshells? And I answered yes to all of those questions. Come in and make an appointment. We're here to talk. And I went in and made an appointment. And this was the first time I had the chance to talk to somebody outside of my group and or outside of my family and circle. And it was with a counselor at the Health and Counseling Center. And she heard me go on and on for an hour, and I was asking her, can you tell me what's wrong with me? I don't know what it is that I do, and I don't know how to be a better wife. What is that secret to being a good wife that keeps eluding me? Maybe if I cook better food or wash better clothes or keep the baby quieter at night, what do I need to do in order to stop feeling this way? And if this is normal, then why doesn't it feel normal? And that's when the counselor said to me, Samra, it's not your fault. No matter what you do not deserve to be treated this way. No one deserves to be abused. And that's the first time I heard the word abuse. And I'm like, what? And then that's when she showed me the power wheel that I showed you guys in the beginning of the presentation. And that changed my life. Like just looking at that and being able to read and see that this is my life. Like I was like, oh my God, these are all the things that happened to me. Like, how did you know? So that means it's not me. Like this has actually been documented. There's studies on it. There are, sadly, there are others this happens to. So it was never really my fault. And that's when it just became so crystal clear to me that I was in an abusive relationship. Because before that, I was thinking that it's all me, and I thought there's something inherently wrong with me, and all my family, even my mom, was telling me that I should find out what makes him angry and try to avoid doing that. So now suddenly I have this diagram in front of me which just puts like this aha moment. Oh my God, like it's not me, it's not my fault, and I do deserve better. And it still took me a while to leave. Like I said, leaving is not a process, it's not an overnight thing. It still took me another 2 years to get enough knowledge and resources and courage and strength to be able to eventually leave. But that moment was probably the most life-changing and powerful moment in my life. So if you know somebody who you think might benefit, show them that power wheel. It could be absolutely life-changing. And secondly, take care of yourself. Sometimes, we want to help somebody so much that we forget that we need help too. And certainly this is something I've learned the hard way. I've been mentoring many abuse survivors, and there were times when I felt like, I'm so involved in helping this person that I forget to take care of myself, and I start, like, I started to get triggered or re-traumatized. So recognize that you cannot help someone who doesn't want to be helped, and you cannot help someone unless you help yourself first. So put your oxygen mask first, and make sure that you're putting boundaries. Even though you're trying to help a friend, make sure that you're not destroying yourself in the process. And the don'ts are: don't shame, judge, or critique. Like I said, absolutely non-judgmental validation and believing. Don't say, oh, you went back 5 times. Like, what is wrong with you? So on average, a woman goes back 7 times. That's statistically true. A woman will go back 7 times before she's finally able to leave. I went back 5 times myself. And then the 6th time is when I finally was able to leave. So leaving is not linear. It doesn't happen overnight. So be absolutely non-judgmental, even if they've gone back multiple times, even if they make excuses for the person. And yes, as a friend, you're absolutely frustrated because you want to just grab them and shake them. Like, what is wrong with you? Get out of that. But if you do that, you're alienating them. And the next time they need your support, they're probably not going to come to you because they feel judged and shamed. So be very, very non-judgmental. Do not make excuses for the abuser. Oh, maybe he's just having a bad day, or maybe he's just, whatever. Maybe he was just drunk the other night. That's why he did that. And I heard this a lot when I've been doing these sessions and this work on domestic violence across the country. And there was one time I was speaking in rural Saskatchewan with a bunch of, with a group of indigenous women, and they live, far into the reserves, and they, like, when we call the cops, like, the cop just comes and say, hey lady, come on, he's just drunk, he's having a bad night, just forget about it. That's why, he'll be fine tomorrow. Just fix him some breakfast in the morning, he'll be okay, right? So and these are trained police officers. So we see that in friends and family as well. Like, my own mom used to say that to me, like, oh, come, he's it's just, he just gets angry, he lost his job, that's why he's doing this. Stop being so difficult on him, just go easier. Your job as a wife is to take care of him. Or others would say, oh, come on, he's not breaking your bones, or he's not hitting you, like, it's just words, like, it's just whatever, like, it's not that bad. So don't ever make excuses for the abuser. Abuse is, like, even if it's this much, it's bad, it's wrong, absolutely wrong, and it should never be tolerated or accepted. Don't make it about you. So this is something that I tell people all the time, that, when somebody comes to you with a problem, this is what's happening to me, and then your response is like, oh yeah, this happened to me too, and you know what, this time, and my husband did this and that, and now you start off on your whole story, and this friend who's come to you looking for that empathetic ear and support is feeling like, completely invalidated and unheard. So don't make it about you, and don't say, oh, yeah, I keep reverting back to my mother, but my mother used to do that, because whenever I would tell her this going on with me, she would make it about my father, because my father was also an abusive husband, and she was, yeah, I went through this too with your dad, and he used to do this, he used to do that, and here I am sitting like, oh my gosh, like, I called for some support and I'm not getting it. So don't make it about you. And don't pressure or force your opinion on them. The last thing you want to do is say, why don't you just leave? Like, what is wrong with you? No, that's shaming, that's judging, that's pressuring them. They need to come to that place on their own, and they will, but they need your non-judgmental support, and they need to know that somebody's got their hand and they will get there. So honestly, these little actions can make a life-changing impact on someone else. They did for me. And that's what I tell everybody. And when I do this work around the country and even beyond, is that there is a lot we can do by being supportive, non-judgmental, and just being a friend and just being there. Human connection is the cornerstone of resilience. And when you feel that somebody's got your back, and when you feel that you're not alone, you can do wonderful things. And for me, that validation and human connection always came from my daughters. And in fact, when my daughter was 8 years old, she once said to me, Mom, are you with Daddy just because of us? And don't do this because of us, because we won't be happy unless you're happy. And knowing that no matter what, I've got my kids, and I won't be alone as long as I have them. That's what gave me the courage and the motivation to leave, and also realizing that I don't want them to grow up thinking that this is normal, because that's what they're watching at home. And I don't want them to tolerate that in their life. So whatever it is, be absolutely non-judgmental and completely 100% supportive. So I hope this helps, and I'm looking forward to talking to all of you and hearing your questions. Before we wrap up, I just have some future topics that are coming. Next week is going to be about family law and domestic violence. I've got a couple of family lawyers who are going to be joining us, and I'll be interviewing them, and then we'll have the ability to ask them any questions and share comments and stories. No, they won't be there to give legal advice, but they will definitely give us a lot of great knowledge and tips. And then we'll have, in the future, we'll have a session on the impact on children, legal aid myths, like, and many, many other topics. So we'll be doing this for a while. And I hope today's session was helpful. The presentation was helpful, and I'm really excited to hear your comments and questions. So, Lida, you said, can you please show the power wheel again? I will actually put the link to the power wheel when I upload the episode on YouTube. And I will also, Munira, you said connections keeps getting lost. So I will post the recording on YouTube, so you will be able to hear it and see it in its entirety again. Let me show you the power wheel quickly. So maybe you guys can take a screenshot of it. There we go. So do you guys just want to quickly take a screenshot? I'll leave it there for a couple minutes, and I'm just going to be back in 2 seconds, guys. Okay, we're back. So I'm going to stop sharing this. And all right, so questions. So like I said, you can raise your hand. So I see Kirti has raised her hand. So Kirti, go. You have to unmute yourself, Kirti.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you so much for this webinar. It was really, really informative. And what the images you showed, like everything was clear. I can really relate it to my dad.
Yeah.
Uh, the abuse cycle which you showed. So he would get drunk, get abusive, throw us out. We used to go to our grandparents, spend a couple of days there, then come back, and he was fine. And for a month or so, he would be fine, and again that thing would happen and happen and happen.
Yeah.
And second, I wanted your advice. You said that you feel confused. So in my life, I have a friend, a very close friend. I know him about for since I've come to Canada, about for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And first we were like, I wanted to marry him. And that time he was not, like, I came as a permanent resident, landed immigrant, and he was on work permit at that time. So I wanted to marry him, and he said, I was with my relatives at that time.
Yeah.
And he said, okay, I asked him, like, I would like to marry you and we can get married, and then you don't have to, like, I can sponsor you and stuff. And he said, okay, but like, let's go and get court marriage and stuff, and don't tell your relatives or anything like that. And that time I was like really new to Canada, about, I would say 7-8 months, and I was, I didn't know what's going on. And like, I talked to my mom, but I couldn't talk to my relatives about this and all that. My aunt, I was living with my aunt. And I said, no, like, if we get married, my aunt has to come because my mom and dad are not here in Canada. And then like something like he was not able to communicate, and then he dropped the idea, and then he was like, we continued, and then uh, again he tells me, like, if I tell him to get married to me, and he's like, oh, I gave you the opportunity that time, you didn't marry me that time.
That's just manipulation. That is absolute manipulation because he's
Yeah.
dangling a carrot in front of you that he will marry you, and he's just telling you that, oh, that time I said yes and you didn't agree. So now, like, somebody who really loves you and wants to be with you is not going to play these mind games, honey. Like that, this isn't what love looks like. As much as we believe, and again, I'd encourage you also to look within yourself, that why this idea of marriage and feeling validated and loved by someone. You need to give yourself that love, and when you do, whether he is there or not, yeah, I mean, it's nice to have somebody, obviously. Like, I feel that all the time. I'm single, I'd love to have a partner, but that is not a necessity. And you're not going to need that. You don't need that validation. You don't need that from somebody else. Like, don't put up with someone who's treating you like an option. You want somebody in your life who feels lucky that they have you in their life, and they're going to do whatever it takes to make you want you to stay, not by coercion or manipulation or all of these things. Um, you're beautiful and you're wonderful, and you just deserve so much better than this.
I want to say something more, and as you say that, um, sometimes when, um, if I'm not able to do something right, for example, recently, couple of days back, and I was confused. So my work hours were really cut short because of COVID
Mhm.
uh, and all that stuff. And I'm asthmatic too. And I talked to my doctor. She said, yeah, like, you are more vulnerable because you're immunocompromised to go on the work in this situation and all that. But I was like little confused, what should I do? Because I like my job. I don't want to leave it. Like, if I get apply for EI, then I
Mhm.
don't know how the things will be in a couple of months,
Yeah,
whether I'll be able to go back. Like, I was going all through these things and talking to
yeah,
my doctor and
yeah.
all this stuff, and he was like, he's like, he got his EI, and like, you should apply for EI. Like, what are you doing? Are you stupid? Like, everybody is going on EI and you have to work now. Like, you, and he
First
was
of
like,
all,
oh,
don't tolerate somebody talking to you like that and somebody saying, are you stupid? Like, you know what you're doing. You're doing just because it makes sense for him or other people doesn't mean it makes sense for you. Um, and I will share something really quick along the same lines. Like in my previous relationship that I was talking about, that short one. I heard this too. Like, why would you want to leave like a high-paying bank job to start your own business? Like, it's just, are you silly? Why are you doing this? So that person is trying to impose their opinion and what they think is right on you, and trying to convince you that you're stupid because you're not listening to them. That's not somebody you want. How would you ever talk to a friend that way? No. Like, none of my friends talk to me that way. All my friends are like, yeah, go for it, you're awesome, you're going to make it work. And if not, the corporate world is always there, right? So you want someone who lifts you up and who champions you and who supports whatever decision you make. Even if you end up making a mistake, they're there to catch you if you fall. That's the whole point of having a partner and somebody who a loved one in your life. So that, I mean, to me, it just doesn't sound okay. It actually, if you look back to the when I do post the presentation, like you'll be able to see a lot of that in there.
and one thing more, he is, sorry, I'm taking a lot of your time. He is like, I was like, why you have these, why get angry? He said, whenever the person I care for, be it you or my family, my parents, if they are doing something stupid and they are going to fall in a pit, I don't want them to do that. That's why I get mad at them. And I have honestly seen him talking to his dad that way.
Yeah, so then he's just not a respectful person. You don't need that. And you're not so, just because he loves you doesn't mean that you're something that he can push around or talk that way to, because you have your own mind and your own opinion. A lot of times, with these unhealthy, toxic kind of people, like they think that if they love someone, that person becomes their property. And now they have the right to control them and all, because I love you. That's why I'm doing this. No, That's not what love is. That's not what healthy love looks like. Healthy love is is the way you love your friend, the way you love your child. And that's the love that should translate into a partnership as well. Like if my daughter is going to do something and take a risk or whatever, yeah, I might not agree with it, but that's not the way I'm going to talk to her. That are you stupid? Or like if I do that, then there's something wrong with me. And sometimes when I do that, I also, even like for example, like couple of weeks ago, my daughter was like, I don't want to stay at home all the time. And I got really mad because I'm like, this is serious. Like, what is wrong with you? Why are you behaving this way? Are you stupid? And then I caught myself like, that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. So I apologize. So you don't have, just because you love someone doesn't give you the right to disrespect them and treat them like they don't have a mind of their own, especially when you're an adult. Like you're a full grown woman who has her career, who knows what she's doing. You're intelligent, you're smart. Absolutely, a partner should be there to give you advice and support, but not in a way that it makes you feel like they're imposing their opinion on you. And if you don't follow their advice, then you're dumb or you're stupid. Like that's just wrong on so many levels. I hope that helps.
Yeah. And Samra, I know, like, I'm not, if I'm talking about my boyfriend, friend, whatever you can call him, like, we are not married, we are not living together,
Mhm.
but we are very close in the way that we talk every day about 3, 4 times. And he tells me what he's doing, where he's applying for job, career, finances, like, we discuss each and everything, and he's fine that way.
So
Um,
then maybe it is a point of suggesting counseling, Kirti. Like again, like I said, abuse should never be tolerated. But then, there's no black and white. There's no like, oh, he's an abuser or he's wonderful. Every one of us has gray areas. We're all human beings, and sometimes we don't know. We are not aware of what we're doing. So maybe that's a conversation that you need to have if you really care about this person and you see there's a lot of potential and he's growing. He wants to change. Maybe he's just not aware of what he's doing. So you might want to have that conversation and suggest counseling and say, hey, you know what, this isn't working for me. Be assertive. Don't act from a place of desperation. Oh, I hope he agrees. Like say, no, this is what you need. And if this person really cares about you, then they will listen to you. And there's therapy is not never a wrong idea, and
yeah,
to change and think. And if he's not okay with it, then you have to ask yourself, like, what is more important to you, right? Because if this is happening right now when you're not even married, like think about what might happen in later on when
yeah.
person is more into your life.
And
And
you know what I feeling I get if I leave him, I will be all alone. I won't have anybody to talk to here
you
in
will not be
Canada.
alone. Being alone does not mean lonely. I learned that lesson the hard way, very early on, that yes, I'm single. Some people might think I'm alone. That doesn't mean you're lonely. That doesn't mean I'm lonely. Like when you love yourself wholeheartedly, when you are connected with yourself, then you will not accept anything less than that wholehearted love from other people. So work on that. We're all on that journey of self-love and self-discovery. Even I am after all these years. I am. But you have to constantly realize that yes, being in a relationship, being with a partner is wonderful. I would love to be married again. I would love to have a partner. But I'm not going to, because for that reason, attach myself to somebody who's not healthy for me, who's not respectful towards me, who's not giving me the kind of love that I need and the kind of love that I give myself. And one of the big questions I ask myself is, if would I be okay with this person being my daughter's partner? And if that's a no, then no, I'm not okay with him being my partner, because I don't love anyone more than my kids, and I want the absolute very best for them. And that's how I should treat myself as well. We as women have been taught for centuries and generations to downplay ourselves, to be less of something, to be this or that in order to be accepted and loved, to feel like we have to somehow tolerate, things that make us uncomfortable, because ultimately our goal is to be married or is to be with someone. And that is absolute nonsense. That's absolute BS. We are complete human beings. We are enough as who we are. Being accepted and loved for who we are is our birthright. And we don't have to change ourselves or hide ourselves or downplay ourselves or morph ourselves into some kind of box in order to be accepted and loved. You are lovable as you are. So give yourself that love and connection. Work on that. There are a lot of resources out there to work on self-love and self-confidence. There are a lot of different tools out there. We can have a one-on-one conversation if anytime if you want, and I can share some of those resources with you. But do not tolerate someone's bad behavior just because you're afraid of being alone. It's much, much better to be alone and give yourself that love and be healthy and surround yourself with the people. You will find your people. Just because you're not with somebody, a partner, doesn't mean you're going to be alone. You're going to find people who love you for who you are. You're going to find friends. You're going to find others who give you that kind of unconditional love. So that will fulfill your life. That will be wonderful. So it's much better to be single and healthy and surrounding yourself with healthy, loving people who love you for who you are, rather than being in a relationship where you're constantly feeling like you're not good enough, and you're just compromising and settling. Like, don't settle. Please don't settle. You're enough, you're beautiful, and you deserve the very best. So keep telling yourself that.
Thank you so much, Amra, and like hope to talk to you one-on-one regarding.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thank you.
All right. No problem. So I just saw that there's a couple of questions in the Q&A box. And what does feminism mean to you? Well, to me, feminism is about equality. And a lot of people think, feminism is about men. It's about disempowering men or something. I've heard that a lot of times. It has nothing to do with men. It has nothing to do with, disempowering men or removing prejudices for, or, putting in prejudices for men or treating them badly or anything. In fact, it has everything to do with removing all of that for women, because we have, as women, been facing prejudices. We have faced sexism. We have faced career opportunities taken away from us. We faced setbacks. We faced abuse. We faced all kinds of people telling us that we need to be different, or too much of this, or too little of this, or we're not good enough, or thin enough, or rich enough, or smart enough, and all of those things. Feminism is about removing all of that from a systemic and societal level, because that's not healthy to any one of us, whether it's women or whether it's men. It's not healthy, because we as women are also mothers, we're also daughters, we're also wives, we're also sisters to these men. So it has nothing to do with it. It's all about creating a healthy, progressive society, an equal society. And it's about removing these systemic barriers. So it's not just about the wage gap, or it's not just about, something that's, getting women in the C-suites. It's about removing these systemic everyday things, the deep-rooted misogyny, deep-rooted patriarchy. And we have a long way to go. There are 12 million girls every year that get married off as children. There are 650 or 700 million women alive today who were child brides. I'm one of them. There are 1 in 3 women who are being affected by domestic violence. 1 in 2 women are being affected by sexual or physical assault of some sort in their lives. And these are underreported stats because we're not counting emotional and psychological abuse in that. So feminism is about removing all of that from a systemic and societal level. And I don't think anyone can disagree with that. So that's what feminism is to me. It's all about equality. It's about equity. It's about human rights. It's about treating and respecting women for who they are as people. It's about tying their honor to their individuality and their goals instead of the way they dress or how many children they bear or their marital status. It's about giving women the autonomy to be able to make their own decisions, because we are good enough, we are smart enough, we are enough. And that's what it is to me. I get very passionate about this. And then the next question is by Catherine. And I have known, so first you said, I love your summation. Human connection is the cornerstone of resilience. Absolutely it is. Connection is what creates resilience. When you're connected with somebody and you know they have your back, and when you're connected with yourself, that's when you feel the most resilient and the most empowered. And she's like, I have known many women who have broken out of abusive relationships, and every time it is their safety rope connection beyond their isolation that helps them to pull themselves and their children through. Thanks for a great supportive webinar. Thank you. And you're so right. You know, when I said I went back, I tried to leave my marriage 5 times, and every time I was either sent back or I went back. And the 6th time that I was able to leave and not go back was because of the community that I had around me. And that was when I was at the University of Toronto, and the friends that I made and my professors and my mentors who really helped me during those times, because that became my safety rope, and it became my safety net. And I was able to know that if you know, I'm not going to be alone. There are people to hold my hand through this, and eventually just take it one day at a time, one step at a time. And I was able to break free. So that's why sessions like these and community supports and calling each other and checking up on each other is so important. And on that note, you know, I'm just going to say this, that I am absolutely sure that right now I am talking to victims and survivors. I know that even if you're not in that situation, you know someone who is. Like I said, the stats are staggering. 1 in 3 women are affected by domestic abuse. 1 in 2 women are affected by physical or sexual assault. And like I said, domestic abuse doesn't just start with a slap or a kick. It is emotional, it is insidious, it progresses over time. So even if you're not affected directly, you know somebody who is. Even if you're not a woman and you're a man, and you know the people who will be watching this later on YouTube, you know someone in your family, in your workplace, in your community who is affected. You may not be aware that they are, but they're there. So reach out, offer connection, check up on them, ask them for a cup of coffee. Even though right now you can't do that due to social distancing and COVID, maybe it's about a virtual coffee. It's about, you know, just picking up the phone and say, hey, I came across this really cool article or this really cool webinar or whatever. Maybe you should watch it. It might ring a bell. It might just spark something. And be absolutely non-judgmental in your support. Be absolutely just, you know, unconditionally supportive. No shaming and guilting, no saying, why don't you just leave? Like, everybody knows he's wrong, he's bad to you. What is wrong with you? Because you want to be there for that person. You want to be there for that woman in the most authentic, non-judgmental way possible. And that connection is what is going to give her the strength to be able to leave, knowing that there is somebody who's got her back, somebody who cares, and somebody who thinks that she matters. Because the one thing that abuse does is you lose yourself. And when somebody else shows you that you matter, you start finding yourself again. And that's what perpetuates your strength and builds your courage to be able to leave. So I will end the webinar on that note. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep reaching out to me, and I hope to see you all next week. Thanks, everyone.